Hi, it's John Glynn, and in this session I'm going to be doing the Straighten tool, which is in the Modify section of the toolbox on the left hand side. The very final sort of proper tool that you'll have is the Straighten tool. When you click on that option below your photograph, you will end up with a choice of how to do this particular straighten. So the very first option, grow or shrink the canvas to fit. Okay, so I'm going to drag a line. You have to choose where that line is going to be. It don't have to be right away across. The C should be square, flat, for instance, so you could just do a small line and it straightens it up, but it will then crop or change how much of the picture you'll actually see in it. If I undo that, and I'm going to do a bit more of a dramatic turn right the way across on this case, and you'll see that it's chopped some of the picture. Now to get rid of those white areas in the corners, at the moment you'd have to go back to your crop tool in the toolbox, also under Modify, and using the crop tool you would then draw a crop, making sure that your borders of the crop are within the picture. So the selection you're using is within the photograph as much as possible, so it doesn't go over the white edges. And then when you say OK, that would be your new picture. Okay, so that would be the purpose of, if you're going to get rid of the white areas, you'd have to do that at this stage. If I undo all that and go back to my Straighten tool and undo the Straighten tool as well, back to the original, I can do the next option, which is crop to remove background. So this is doing what I just did now, which was do the crop manually. This will do it automatically. So I'm going to do a Straighten again, use the same way. I'm just going to do the same thing, and it has cropped it for me. Okay, so it's done it automatically rather than me having to manually crop it. So it's that option. And the next option is keeping crop to the original size. So it's going to try and keep the original size of the image, including the crop, but the same thing will happen as pretty much with the first option. You might lose parts of your picture and you get these white borders. Okay, so let's just undo that again and go back to the first option, and we have auto fill edges. So as we know, when I've cropped in the first and last option, I've had white areas around the edges, but I may not want them. So I'm going to do auto fill edges and drag again to make a straight line. So I'm just running along from edge to edge, and it has filled in the edges of that white area that was there originally in the first time I did it with parts of the picture. Hasn't cropped it, it's just filled it in. However, in doing that you do get some weird in this case some weird effects going on. So I'll zoom in a bit and show you what's happened with my fourth rail bridge. It's filled in this edges, but it's distorted the bridge. So it may work on landscapes or something where it's not really important. We don't really know what the edges of a landscape are like, but it is an issue if you're going to be doing man-made structures. You might find that it will distort the man-made structure in the process of doing the autofill edges. Okay, I'll undo that and go to the final option again, because that was a similar sort of issue there, and leave it as autofill edges again, and see if it can cope any better with doing it, or whether we have the same issues with the distortion. And again it's done it, and again there's some weird stuff going on with the bridge where it's actually lost part of the bridge altogether in the process of trying to fill in the edges which were plain white the first time round. So do be aware that it may have issues with man-made structures and buildings, and obviously this bridge can look very odd at the edge where it's trying to rebuild it, if you like. So it may be that on some occasions you'll just have to accept that when you do the crop, you're going to have to allow for this white edge here and crop it manually through the crop tool, or use the middle option to do the crop for you automatically. Okay, rotate on all layers as if you had more than one layer already there, and you would want to keep all the layers so that when you did the crop, all the layers would be cropped equally. Then you would want it to rotate all layers equally. But as I've only got one picture in my layers palette or panel, it doesn't really matter in this case, but I'll just leave it on anyway. Okay, so have a go with that. If you've got any pictures where the horizon is off, then it certainly does work, and it will straighten the edges, or straighten your photo, but just be aware that you may have to crop it yourself manually after it's done the straightening. Okay, fine. Thanks very much for watching.